What you are about to hear is something you almost never see happen in a federal courtroom. A top Department of Justice lawyer, standing before a federal judge, didn't just stumble. She didn't just misspeak. She confessed, out loud, that the very agency she represents may be violating the Constitution. This wasn't a leak. This wasn't a whistleblower memo. This was a live courtroom moment where the truth slipped out in a way the DOJ absolutely did not intend. And once you understand what she admitted, about IC, about racial profiling, and about defying federal court orders, you'll see why this hearing has now ignited a full-blown crisis inside the Trump Justice Department. Stay with me, because this gets worse the deeper you go. Before we break this all down, take a second to hit subscribe, like the video, and make sure you're following our legal coverage here and on Legal AF. We're tracking these courtroom battles every single day, and you're not going to want to miss what's coming next. Alright, let's get into it. This all went down in federal court in Minnesota, during a habeas corpus hearing. That's the legal process judges use to decide whether the government can lawfully keep someone detained. The judge presiding over these cases is Judge Jerry Blackwell, a federal judge tasked with enforcing court orders against IC and the Department of Homeland Security. Representing the government was Julie Lee, a Department of Justice lawyer who volunteered to work on behalf of IC. And that's where everything started to unravel. Because instead of explaining why IC was following the law, this DOJ lawyer told the judge, on the record, that IC wasn't listening to her, wasn't complying with court orders, and may be engaging in racial profiling. This isn't just one bad hearing. This is part of a growing national pattern where federal agencies under Trump are openly defying judges, and the courts are finally starting to push back. Here's what happened. Judge Blackwell called a hearing to ask a very basic question. Why are my court orders being ignored? And instead of giving a polished DOJ response, Julie Lee told the truth. She said her workload was crushing, dozens upon dozens of habeas cases dumped on her without training. She admitted she wasn't prepared for federal court work. She told the judge that ICE routinely refuses to communicate with her at all. At one point, she said, and this is now infamous, "This job sucks." But then came the moment that changed everything. She told the judge she was worried that her own client, IC, is racially profiling detainees. And she explained why it scared her personally. She looked at the judge, an African-American man, and said, "As you can see, Judge, I'm not white." Think about that. A DOJ lawyer telling a federal judge she fears her own family could be caught up in ICE's actions, while standing in court representing IC. That wasn't strategy. That was a confession. Now let me put my lawyer hat on for a moment and explain why this is so serious. DOJ lawyers take an oath to uphold the Constitution. They are officers of the court. Their duty is not blind loyalty to an agency, it's honesty, ethics, and compliance with lawful court orders. When a lawyer tells a judge that her client refuses to communicate, refuses to comply with court orders, and may be violating constitutional protections, that lawyer is signaling a complete breakdown of the legal process. Judges' orders are not suggestions. They are binding. Ignoring them isn't politics, it's contempt of court. And no administration gets a free pass to violate civil rights just because enforcement is inconvenient. Here's the part that makes this explosive. This is not an isolated incident. Multiple DOJ lawyers in Minnesota have told federal judges they cannot comply with court orders because ICE simply won't return their calls. Judges have now documented dozens upon dozens of violated orders, just in 1 month. The Chief Judge of Minnesota, a conservative Republican who clerked for Justice Antonin Scalia, issued a blistering warning. He said IC has violated at least 96 federal court orders and warned that the next step is contempt hearings, including hauling IC leadership into court. This isn't resistance politics. This is the judiciary defending itself. And when federal agencies decide they can ignore judges, that's when constitutional systems start to break. Legal experts across the spectrum are sounding the alarm. Former federal judges, conservative jurists, and constitutional scholars have all said the same thing: if courts don't enforce their orders, the rule of law collapses. Even judges who are no friends of progressive politics are now drawing lines in the sand. They've seen this before. They know where it leads. And they are finally saying, enough. This is what accountability looks like when it starts. This hearing wasn't just embarrassing for the Department of Justice. It was a turning point. A DOJ lawyer said out loud what the administration has tried to hide, that ICE is out of control, court orders are being ignored, and constitutional protections are at risk. Now the question is whether judges will follow through. Because the federal courts may be the last line standing between the rule of law and open defiance. If you care about civil rights, due process, and democracy itself, stay informed. Share this story. Follow our ongoing coverage. Because when the truth starts slipping out in open court, it means the pressure is finally working. And we're not backing down.